The American gun culture is a topic of passionate debate. Most people feel strong about their opinion, whether they are for gun control or support the Second Amendment as written by our founding fathers. America stands out in the world with our love of guns. The gun culture, however, goes back before the Second Amendment and even before our founding. The Pilgrims hit Plymouth Rock with pistols on their side. Guns were there to carry these new settlers through the tasks and hardships that lay ahead. Guns fed them and protected them from those who did not welcome them to the new land, enabling them to start what we have today. Over 100 years later, guns would win these new colonies the freedom they sought, birthing a new nation. Our founders knew guns were an important part of survival for free man, giving us the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Guns blazed our way west, bringing prosperity and new lands, stretching this new nation's sea to shining sea. American guns liberated Western Europe on the brink of annihilation in 2 world wars, protected many other nations over the years. Our law enforcement keeps us safe. We use guns to protect our homes and our families. You hear many stories of crime with guns, but there are many more stories of guns saving lives that you don't hear about. They're not reported to law enforcement, let alone ever meet the news. I'm a perfect example. I've had 3 instances over 20 years of running service in all kinds of neighborhoods, all hours of the day. But I never called the police, I never reported it. Besides guns being the great equalizer, it's a fast-growing sport. Having 2 boys, 12 and 17, they don't want to hang out with Dad anymore. They'll drop everything when they see me pack the guns up to go to the range though. Most people think of hunting for a shooting sport, but shooting sports go far beyond just hunting. Most have heard of skeet and trap, but there are countless disciplines ranging from western and 3-gun to long-range and speed shooting. Men and women by the thousands participate in this highly competitive sport. Universities such as Harvard even offer a scholarship for shooting.
Shooting has been around a lot longer than we realize. It probably started out with projectiles being thrown by cavemen. But we do know by about 1,000 marksmanship developed, the skill developed, and the Germans brought games to recreational shooting, and then competition for gold and silver. And today, we have over 20 million people in this country that participate in recreational shooting. And I'm one of those that participate, and I've been shooting since I'm 7. That's what's so great about recreational shooting. Any age, 5 to 100, it doesn't matter what your physical condition is, you can do recreational shooting. 2 of the biggest games of recreational shooting are trap shooting and skeet shooting. And they came over from England in the early 1830s. They started about 1750s in England. And when they first came to this country, it was hats where they put birds under it, and somebody would manually lift the hat. Somebody would shoot the bird. But that didn't last very long. About 20 years later, they did glass balls. And I guess glass balls were too messy. So about 1880, clay pigeons came about. Clay pigeons are what we use today, and they're painted orange. And in trap shooting, in 1908, they developed manual throwers. So they can go straight out for trap, and you shoot. And skeet, it comes at a 45-degree angle, and you can have 1 or 2 clays, and you shoot at them. It's become so popular that in 1995, the U.S. Olympic Committee asked the U.S. shooting team to be the non-profit organization to sponsor recreational shooting in this country. And we've won many gold medals. And the NRA is the biggest supporter of all facets of gun ownership, training for the police, protection, and recreation. So support the NRA. And one last thing, when I said anybody can do it, in 2012, Eric Corey was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, and he was 16 years old, and he loved shooting, and he wanted anybody to be able to shoot. So he started a foundation so that anybody handicapped could enjoy the sport, and I think you can tell by the smiles on their faces that recreational shooting really brings happiness to a lot of people.
Well, owning a gun for hunting or sports or other recreational purposes can be a lot of fun, but for my point of view, more importantly, guns can be used for protecting people's lives. This is a national survey showing after 911, actually, a lot of people feel less safer. So the people who own gun, the number of people who owns a gun for protection almost doubled the number from 26% to 28%. And why own a gun? I think the protection is now the top reason. Due to the terrorism, violence, and the bad economy, nowadays the crime rates are up, and our society is not as safe as before. So more and more people are buying guns for protection. Okay. Our lives are precious, and our lives are worth defending. Think about sometimes I'm thinking about if I'm a single mom and I'm a housewife, my husband is always traveling and I'm always case. If I'm in some life-threatening situations, I really need something to protect myself. So I think owning a gun is necessary. Also, think about if I'm driving on a road trip at night out of nowhere, I probably feel unsafe as well. I feel much better if I have a gun to protect myself and my kids. Also for the elders and the disabled people, if they live by themselves, who's going to protect them? So they are the easy targets for the criminals. Therefore, I think they need to have some type of forms of arms to protect themselves. There are some people may say, why own a gun is so dangerous? You could just set up an alarm system or have a dog or just call police. They're there to protect us. But I think the criminals are smart and they're hardworking as well. So they can easily figure out how to decode the alarm system. Also, they can easily put down the dog by trick them or kill them or poison them, do something like that. Call the police is definitely a good idea, but they normally don't show up right away. So what do you do at that time? If you have a gun, you may scare away whoever trying to hurt you, and you put yourself at a better position where you maybe try to escape or wait for the policeman to show up. Overall, I think owning a gun it's really necessary to protect ourselves and protect our families.
I agree with Jen. I think every American has the right to own a gun, and I believe that it greatly, in a positive way, impacts the way you protect yourself. It puts you more on that level, and you're more apt to be able to defend yourself. So looking at the picture here, two different scenarios. The one on the left-hand side, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You hear glass breaking, no one's in your house but your family, everyone's asleep. That's a bad situation. On the right-hand side, it's late at night on a weekend, you're walking home or to your car by yourself, and you notice that there's someone stalking behind you. These are all situations that are absolutely bad, and it is always in our best interest as Americans to be able to have protection, carry protection with us in the form of a firearm. Now, a responsible gun use increases our chance of surviving, but obviously this is not the Wild West. It's not the cowboys. You're not going to go up there and have a shootout with all these bad guys that are trying to enter, these felons. Because more than likely, these guys are going to be more trained in gun use than you. So, the reason you should own a gun is to facilitate your escape. That's the only reason. It is only a last resort. But make sure you have it on you. That way you do have this. It levels the battlefield. Now, let's go ahead and take a step back here. Now, the first step in self-defense is actually being able to avoid threatening situations in the first place. So don't put yourself in position to have to use or resort to gun violence or to protect yourself with a firearm. So, for example, if you're at home, lock your doors and windows. Invest in heavy-duty heavy-duty hardware and locks. Keep your blinds closed so they don't see what's going on there, what valuables you have. So if they can't see in there, they're less apt to go in there and try to steal your television or whatever you have displayed. Use your peephole. If you have a peephole on your door, if someone knocking on the door, look through your peephole. Make sure you have a positive identification before you open it. I tell my daughter, if she hears something, not even to answer it and to get me. And if I actually test her, I knock on the door and I have her asking who it is. And that's a good thing. So be prepared for that. And the worst thing you can do is defend your property. Do not defend your property. Okay? This is the biggest thing. Don't force yourself into a standoff. These items, belongings, they're all replaceable. Your life is not. You only have one life. Me, I worry about my family, I worry about my wife, I worry about my daughter. It would be selfish of me to try to take my responsibilities away from them. I have a duty to my family. When you're in public, avoid dangerous neighborhoods or areas at night or alone or unarmed. Just avoid them. Don't even go there. You know the bad areas. Avoid places where alcohol is used. There's a tendency for drunk people to be dominant over each other, and they try to show their butts a little bit more and want to start fights. Well, just avoid that completely, so there's no issues. Now, if you do have a concealed weapons permit and you are carrying a gun, you have more responsibility to behave yourself. You need to be top-notch, and you need to keep yourself out of trouble, and you need to stay away from alcohol in the first place, because I spoke to Mike last week, and he stated that if you are drinking, if there's alcohol in your system and you're carrying a gun, even if you have a permit, it's a felony, and that sticks with you. And then you will lose all your gun rights for the rest of your life unless you get it scrubbed, which is very difficult to do and expensive. Now, if somebody does confront you, you try to get away, but if someone does come up to you, you don't have a choice, de-escalate the situation. What are you looking at? Don't say, oh, what are you looking at? I'm looking at you. That's causing a fight right there. What you do is de-escalate. You say, I'm sorry, man, I had a long day. I'm just kind of zoning out. I just happened to be staring right through you. My bad. Walk away. De-escalate the situation. Diffuse it. Because violence is not the first way to go about it. Follow your instincts. Now, if you see someone out there or you feel uncomfortable, always follow your instincts. If some guy you feel is creepy, is sorry, you had a little too close to you, you know what, don't let society tell you, you have to be nice to this guy. You have every right to not trust this guy. So get your distance. Escape if you have to. You don't have to stick around for that. Take off. I don't want to put my daughter in that situation. I just pull her away and just say, we're out of here. I'm not even going to let it develop. And again, do not defend your property. If you get mugged, someone's pointing a gun at you, throw them your wallet. You could have everything I have on me. Just leave me alone and I'm out of there. So I'm not going to stick around for that. Now, sometimes you're just put in a situation where you can't avoid it. So, if you are in this situation, I know that's a scary picture there. That's what you don't want to see. You're at night, you see this guy in your window, and this guy's getting ready to break in. The most important thing you can do is escape. That's your first priority. You don't sit around and wait for this guy to come in and break in. You want to go ahead and have a shoot-off with him. You don't do that. Get your butt out of the house. When you're safe, call somebody. Every second counts. All right. Tips to escape a threatening situation. Be prepared. Have a plan an escape route. Plan this with your family. My daughter knows where all the exits are. If someone comes in the front door, there's a side door. If both doors are blocked, you can go through the window. Be prepared for that. Keep your firearm. Know where your firearm is at all times. Keep it within reach. You don't want to have to run across a 3,000 square foot house to get your firearms. Typically, you have 30 seconds to react once a guy breaks in and finds out where you're at. That's not much time. If you have to fiddle around, look for that stuff, gather your family, it's going to be too late. Don't hesitate. Immediately escape. Like I have here, your firearm is only a tool to facilitate the means of ensuring that the offender does not block your escape route. So, don't have a shoot-off. If he's standing in front of the doorway and that's your escape route, one way or another, he's going to get out of your way. And if you have your firearm, that's the tool you use to get him out of the way, to ensure your family's safety, your family's safety. Do not empower the attacker. Don't give in to his demands. Do not trust their promises. They're there for bad. And that's it. You're always better off running and getting out of there. Get your family to safety. Do not delay your escape to call the police. They take time to respond. It's going to take 20 minutes before they're out there in some places. Get out of there, assure your safety, then call the police. Your safety and your life are the #1 priorities. But do feel comforted that there are laws in place by the state of Florida that have your back as a defender. There have been laws that are passed to watch your back, so you can feel confident in these situations, so you do not hesitate. Chapter 776 of the Florida Statutes, 776.013 and 776.032. Starting with the first one. It's home protection, use of deadly force, stand your ground during forcible felony. Now, basically what this says is that you have no duty to retreat. If you or your loved ones, if you're in your house, if you and your loved ones feel that you are being threatened by an outside person breaking in, you have every authorization to stand your ground. You don't have to leave and meet aggressors force with force. Meaning deadly to deadly. If the guy has a knife, he's pointing at you, getting ready to stab your daughter, you can use your gun and protect her to try to save her life. Now, the next statute right here, going back to that one, that includes when you're outside. If you are in a public area where you're legally allowed to be there, just say, you're at the mall parking lot. Something happens there, there's an altercation, and you have no choice. You exhausted all your attempts to escape there, you tried all your exit routes, you tried to pacify this guy, you tried to de-escalate the system, the offender, and you're backed into a corner. You have every right to use your firearm to neutralize that threat. And this next statute right here, 032, states that lawfully you are assured immunity to criminal prosecution and civil action for exercising rights under the first code right there. Basically, they cannot arrest you, they cannot detain you, they cannot charge you or prosecute you. This provides peace of mind. The worst thing you do during an invasion, just say in your house, you're cornered, time is of the essence, is hesitate. Say, okay, well, what if I shoot this guy? Am I going to get in trouble? You start pondering all this. But if you understand this law and you have every right to protect yourself, know that you could go ahead and use your instincts and protect your family and yourself, forced with force, and not have to suffer any repercussions. As a matter of fact, the state of Florida will reimburse any attorney fees that you incur during this. If you're having to fight this, they will reimburse you. They will give you an expense report and everything. Hey, this is a bad scenario. Say this is your back, your back door. This guy's coming through there. You can see through the silhouette that he's carrying a knife. Bad intentions. He wants the worst for you. So obviously, if he's carrying a knife like that, he's out to hurt somebody. And in my view, that's my escape route. One way or another, this dude is getting out of my way. I'm going to bring my family to safety. That's my #1 priority. And I don't have to wait and hesitate because the government has my back. For the most part. The government does a lot of good things to help us out as gun owners for protection and everything like that. But the government also has a tendency to overstep their bounds.
government takes our gun rights and takes away our guns, we're left powerless, and they can do whatever they want. A good quote from Thomas Jefferson is, when governments fear the people, there's liberty. When people fear the government, there's tyranny. And I really like this, this picture right here. It shows two elks, and they're using their antlers to defend themselves, and they're fighting. And let's just say the government is the left one, and us, the people, are on the right, and they take away our antlers. We have nothing to defend ourselves. The government will always win, be on top, and overall just can do anything to us. One thing in the past that no one thought would happen happened with in Germany with Hitler and the elimination of Jews, or he tried to. In November 1938, Hitler used a shooting as an excuse to confiscate all guns owned by Jews. Immediately after the guns were confiscated, Hitler began rounding up the Jews and hauling them to concentration camps. So that left them, they couldn't defend themselves or anything. This is just a news article right here, published in 1938 in Berlin, on forbidding Jews to buy or own or carry guns. Of the 9 million Jews who lived in Europe, approximately 2/3 of them died, and 1 million Jewish children were killed in the Holocaust. So pretty much we're powerless when we don't have weapons to defend ourselves, and the governments can do whatever they want. You never know what can happen.
Basically, what we want to inform everyone on is you have the right to own a gun. You have your right to self-defense by using your gun in any situation that you need it. And recreational use, if you're allowed to use a gun, if you use it in the right ways, there's no reason you can't use it for recreational use to have fun. And touch back on what he says, it's a perfect example. If the government takes all the guns from the people, there's nothing we can do to defend ourselves in the event of a takeover. It's the same thing that's happened in the past, and it will happen again eventually. In the event you need a gun to protect yourself against crime, it's if you're at your house and your alarm goes off. Even if you do have a burglar alarm in your house, calling the cops is not going to immediately save you. The response time for a police officer to get to your house is most likely too late, and you'll probably either be dead or fully robbed before they arrive. So if you have a gun, and he breaks in with a gun, or maybe he breaks in with a knife, a bat, or anything, if you break into a home and you see a gun, you're most likely not going to want to charge at the person holding the gun at you, even if you're holding a gun. People know that when you break into a home, we have guns. So in the event that we have to defend ourselves in our own home, or in the rightful place to own a gun, everyone is completely aware that we all have guns. No one's going to walk into a 7-Eleven knowing that half the people in there are carrying concealed firearm permits and try to rob the place. So now you have a fear factor that can also prevent gun violence by having guns in public places. There's going to be crime in public places whether you like it or not, so maybe leveling the playing field would help out a lot. Criminals are always going to have guns. Guns are so far in circulation now that it'd be impossible to take all the guns away from everyone in the United States. So, in the event you need a gun, it would always be a positive thing to be able to defend yourself. If they take away every gun from every person, the government will have to take over. What if people argue that only police officers should have guns? Just because you've gone to a police school does not mean you hear about dirty cops in the news every day. So, how can you determine which police officer should have a gun? And a good quote is, if you have a democracy, you believe it or not. So it's up to you. Nothing's going to happen if you believe it or you don't believe it. It's pretty much up in the air. A dictatorship is you'll believe it or else. And then recreational use, if we'd like to take recreational use out, why I think it should go along for everyone in our country, not just the citizens. So if our president feels it's comfortable to be able to shoot a recreational gun, why shouldn't you? Guns are not bad, the misuse of guns are bad. This is a good quote. I think you've probably seen it on Facebook, maybe a couple different media places. I'll read it to you. I wasn't gonna, but I think everyone would benefit from what you hear. It's, "Today I swung my front door wide open and placed my Stevens 320 right in the doorway. I gave it 6 shells and noticed that it had no legs. I even placed it in a wheelchair to help get it around. I then left it alone and went about my business. While I was gone, the mailman delivered my mail, the neighbor boy across the street mowed my yard, a girl walked her dog down the street, and quite a few cars stopped at the sign right in front of my house. After about an hour, I checked the gun. It was still sitting in a wheelchair right where I left it. It hadn't rolled itself outside. It certainly hadn't killed anyone, even with the numerous opportunities it had been presented to do so. In fact, I had even loaded it. It hadn't even loaded itself. Well, you can imagine my surprise when all the media hype about how dangerous guns are and how they kill people. Either the media is wrong, and it's the misuse of guns by people that kills people, or I'm in the possession of the laziest gun in the world. All right, well, I'm off to check my spoons because I hear they're making people fat." I found it very informative because it really gives you a picture that a gun can't kill anyone. Someone holding the gun is what kills someone. So guns are not bad, it's people that misuse guns is what is bad. So we think that with support for gun use, you'd benefit not only in your household and keeping it from a tyrannical government, but you'll definitely be able to protect yourself in the event that you needed to use a gun on someone else.